When it comes to Final Fantasy, 2023 was an action-packed year. Final Fantasy XVI was, of course, the star of the show. It was released on the 22nd of June, and its first piece of DLC, called Echoes of the Fallen, launched at the start of December. But it would be remiss not to talk about everything else that happened throughout the year. For example, the fantastic Theatre of Them Final Bar line was released to significant fanfare in February. On the exact same day, Machine Zone launched the global version of Final Fantasy XV War for Eos, a spiritual successor to A New Empire. We saw the conclusion of Stranger of Paradise via its final piece of downloadable content entitled Different Future. Ever Crisis Final Fantasy VII launched on the eve of a huge media blast relating to everything Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and how could we forget about the Final Fantasy X Kabuki show? But even with so much happening last year, the Final Fantasy franchise shows no signs of slowing down throughout 2024. And this will manifest through a combination of new games being released, updates to existing games, and a whole host of quirky supplemental content that will be released in Japan. There are also plenty of important anniversaries that will be celebrated throughout the year. Final Fantasy VI, for example, will be celebrating its 30th anniversary, while Final Fantasy VIII will be celebrating its 25th. Final Fantasy XIII will also be celebrating a milestone, as when 2024 draws to a close, it will have been 15 years since the original game was released in Japan. And perhaps this will finally be the time when we get to see some kind of announcement relating to a Final Fantasy XIII remastered trilogy collection. Either way, it means there's lots to look forward to. So strap yourselves in as we do an extensive preview about what to expect from Final Fantasy in 2024, starting with a game that cannot be released soon enough, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Anticipation for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been building ever since Remake released, but everything really started to kick into gear during the Final Fantasy VII 25th Anniversary Celebration livestream that aired during 2022. It was here that people saw that the elevated role of Zack was not just a mere red herring, and that Sephiroth would indeed join Cloud as a party member during the Nibelheim incident, just as he had done in the original. But perhaps more importantly, we learned that the game was going to be called Rebirth, as opposed to Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. Since then, Square Enix has released numerous trailers, attended plenty of trade shows, and conducted countless interviews with media all around the world. Each aspect has been designed to tease story beats, reveal new characters, and to showcase the scope of the project. And although it sometimes feels like we're being relentlessly assaulted with information, if it helps to sell more copies of the game, then that can only be a good thing. There's plenty of us, however, who just want to play the game. Fortunately, there's not much longer to wait, as it was announced during the September 2023 media blitz that Rebirth will be releasing on the 29th of February. Between now and then, Square Enix will continue to reveal additional information, something that was teased by Tetsuya Nomura on Twitter. But they also have plenty of adjacent initiatives planned too. For example, we already know that the Apex Legends collaboration will start on the 9th of January. In Japan, it's also been confirmed that Advent Children Complete is going to be shown in movie theatres for a limited run that will begin on the 19th of January. And it seems as though this will be replicated in some parts of the United States, although there's been no official confirmation of this as yet. It's also not been confirmed as to whether or not Square Enix will choose to release the two-part demo that's been appearing at trade shows around the world. In the build-up to Remake, a similar approach was taken, as the opening bombing mission was made available for trade show attendees before being released to the general public around a month before the game's launch. Final Fantasy XVI also had its prologue released as a demo in the build-up, leading to a huge surge in pre-orders. This means there's a precedent, but it's probably best to set expectations low with the hope that Square Enix will surprise us. Final Fantasy XVI launched to significant praise and strong sales on a global scale, being nominated for numerous awards for its contribution to gaming and even winning some, but the development team are not finished yet. As mentioned, Echoes of the Fallen released around a month ago as a small interlude, but the main piece of DLC, dubbed The Rising Tide, is due to release in spring 2024. Not much has been revealed thus far, but we do know it will explore Leviathan the Lost. In addition, Naoki Yoshida has continued to tease that Final Fantasy XVI will be releasing on PC at some point in 2024, even taking the time to mention this as part of his year-end message to Famitsu readers. And then there's the musical. Yes, 2024 will see the debut of the Final Fantasy XVI musical, which will open its doors on the 17th of May. Should you miss out, a second run will start on the 13th of July. Now, alongside overseeing the continued rollout of everything Final Fantasy XVI, Yoshida will also be heavily involved with what promises to be a huge year for Final Fantasy XIV. Everything will kick off with a Japanese fan fest, which is planned to run across the 6th and 7th of January. Lots of different elements will be planned, but much of the anticipation will be around what the second new job will be after Viper was announced during the London Fan Fest. January should also be important for actual content too, as Part 2 of Patch 6.5, dubbed Patch 6.55, should have its release date firmed up. So far, we only know that it will be released in mid-January. We should also hear more about the teased Final Fantasy XVI crossover. But the big ticket item, outside of everything happening in January, has to be the upcoming release of Dawntrail, which is penciled in for release in summer 2024. Serving as the 5th major expansion to Final Fantasy XIV, Dawntrail is set to see the now venerable MMO embark on a brand new story arc, with it even taking place in a new location. That then brings us on to Ever Crisis Final Fantasy VII. Ever Crisis launched on the 7th of September, right before that huge information dump relating to Rebirth. It saw strong initial returns, with millions of gamers around the world downloading the app, and Square Enix, alongside its developer, Applebot, has attempted to maintain that momentum ever since. Numerous events have taken place, including a collaboration with Final Fantasy IX, and as part of the Wily Hunter event, which serves as the game's New Year celebration, Yuffie Kisaragi can now be encountered as a boss. After this event concludes, the developers have promised that new playable characters will be added, but no concrete information has been provided as to who those characters will be, or what date the associated events and campaigns will start. Either way, as we get closer to the launch of Rebirth, expect activity in Ever Crisis to ramp up as they attempt to capitalize on the increased focus around Final Fantasy VII as a whole. On that note, Square Enix has chosen the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth launch date as the date when they will also terminate numerous mobile games. In Japan, for example, Engage Kill will shut down, and the global version of Dragon Quest Tact will suffer the same fate. But perhaps the biggest fatality during this latest culling of Square Enix's mobile gacha gaming deadwood is Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. The Japanese version of Opera Omnia launched back in 2017, with the global version launching a year later. After almost 7 years, the decision has been taken to terminate the game because the developers no longer feel they can provide a strong enough service to continue to satisfy the player base. This is bittersweet news, but the development team have vowed to have Opera Omnia go out with a bang. So alongside adding Angeal to the game as a playable character, weekly events have been taking place from the termination announcement that will carry it all the way up through to the termination itself. What's curious about this though, is that even though some games and services are ending, Square Enix continues to innovate and expand in other areas. We already mentioned that they will be producing a Final Fantasy XVI musical, but that's not the only major production they have planned. Brave Exvius has been a global sensation ever since it launched, and collaborations with the likes of Katy Perry and Ariana Grande have furthered this notion. But its spin-off, War of the Visions, has also been a huge success, and this year, Square Enix will be working to produce Final Fantasy Brave Exvius War of the Visions: The Stage. This will be a live-action production relating to the story of War of the Visions, and it will run from the 23rd of February through to the 3rd of March. Another rather intriguing event taking place in Japan is called Final Fantasy XI: The Singers of Alternate Tales. This will be a special event where numerous voice actors will sing and read original scenarios relating to Final Fantasy XI that have been written by staff who worked on the scenarios that were delivered in-game. The concept sounds very similar to Dissidia Final Fantasy Secretum Himitsu, which also had voice actors doing dramatic readings of a scenario that took place in the Dissidia universe. This event is planned for the 17th of February. All things considered though, even without thinking about all the possibilities that may come later down the line, including much rumoured games such as the Final Fantasy IX Remake and the Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, there's a lot of stuff happening within just January and February alone, even more if you happen to live in Japan. But based on everything we've covered today, what are you most looking forward to throughout 2024? Is it Rebirth? Is it Final Fantasy XVI The Rising Tide? Is it Dawntrail? Or is it something else entirely? Let us know in the comments below, and of course, if you enjoy this update that ushers in the new year, feel free to give us a like and subscribe for more content. Alright everyone, with that, this is Daryl signing out. As always, I'd like to give a big thank you to all of our Patreon and YouTube membership supporters, especially Benjamin Snow, The Livestream, Gregory, Justin Dent, and Sukin DDK, who are super special Onion Knight supporters, and of course, a big thank you to everyone for watching this video. I'll see you all again soon for more Final Fantasy goodness.